The House impeachment report is in on Joe Biden. And yes, the president is a crook. So is his brother. So is his son. And he's guilty of obstruction of justice. And we'll give you all the details. And, well, we'll speculate about what Republicans might do about it or not do about it. Also, the DNC starts today. So stay out of Chicago. It's going to be a mess. Really, really ugly. But according to Politico, Democrats have no drama. I tell that to the business owners who have boarded up all of the windows of their shops until this thing passes. Also, Kamala Harris finally speaks. She went off script and she answered a question of a reporter. And, well, now we know why they don't let her talk to reporters or go off script. We're going to show you the details of that. And while we're talking about it, does Kamala Harris have a drinking problem? I mean, seriously, we've been observing her behavior, her speech patterns, the way is she drunk? That would explain a lot. We're getting into all that and a whole lot more, but only if you keep it right here, right now. My name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Thanks for watching us today on our live stream across multiple platforms, including Rumble and YouTube and X and whatever Meta's doing these days with live stream. I lose track that other people do that. But thank you for being there for it. Could you do us a favor real fast and subscribe? And also get those alerts going so you can see when we go for our live stream. Because I'm told sometimes we're not exactly on time. Terry B. with that very passive-aggressive message before we even started. We do our best, okay? We're not on anyone's schedule, anyone's clock. We'll go when we're good and ready. You want it perfect, don't you? All right, let's get right to it. The House impeachment inquiry has completed, and they've delivered their report. Now, these are three committees, the Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee, and the Ways and Means Committee, chaired by James Comer of Kentucky, Jim Jordan of Ohio, and Jason Smith of Missouri, respectively. And we'll let Fox News deliver exactly what this report says.
This is a Fox News alert. All new this morning, House Republicans finding President Biden and his family received more than $27 million from foreign individuals and entities since 2014. Lawmakers call it an impeachable conduct. Brooke Singman is in Chicago with this story. Brooke, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Ainsley. I obtained a copy of this 292-page report from House Republicans. They're on the House Oversight, Judiciary, and Ways and Means committees, and they've been leading this impeachment inquiry against President Biden for months. So they said their investigation found that President Biden engaged in impeachable conduct and said he abused his office and, quote, defrauded the United States to enrich his family. Republicans revealed that since 2014, the Biden family and its associates received more than $27 million from foreign individuals and entities.
Let me jump in here for a quick second. Everyone catching this language being used? The Biden family acquired $27 billion at least from foreign individuals, foreign countries. And by the way, just so you know, it's amazing to me that no one ever really points this out, but I would like to take a moment to point it out. It's not like the Biden family is doing business with Sweden, right? It's not like, half of the $27 billion is coming from our friends in the Great White North in Canada. It's not like they've ventured into all of these great new, financial agreements with, France. It's Russia. It's China. It's Kazakhstan. It's Ukraine. It's all of these countries who are, kind of have a reputation for being corrupt. And, by the way, not the friendliest to the United States of America. And this all happened while Joe Biden was vice president of the United States. $27 billion. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. $27 million. Well, what's millions to billions in Washington, D.C.? I apologize. Unlike Anderson Cooper, I will correct myself immediately. $27 million. But for what? And here's the amazing thing about this entire crime. No one has been able to articulate on behalf of the Biden family, on behalf of Hunter, brother James, or the big guy, Joe himself. They've never been able to say, oh, this is totally legitimate. Here's what we did to earn that money. Blank. Have you noticed that? All you hear from Joe is, oh, there's nothing illegal about what my son did. That has been looked at. This is old news, and there's nothing. No, wait, hold on. let's take for granted that there was nothing illegal. Could you at least tell us what he did to earn the money? What was the service or product provided to earn $27 million? They can't answer that. We know what the product was. It was the big guy. Okay, a little bit more here, and then we'll break it down.
They also found that while Biden was serving as vice president, the Biden family got more than $8 million in loans from Democratic benefactors. And they say those loans have not been repaid. So this report says, in part, quote, as vice president, President Biden actively participated in a conspiracy by, among other things, attending dinners with his family's foreign business partners and speaking to them by phone, often when being placed on speakerphone by Hunter Biden. Republicans are calling out a 2014 dinner that Hunter Biden and his father attended with a Russian oligarch. After that dinner, the oligarch wired $3.5 million to Hunter Biden's firm. Now, this report says, quote, several witnesses testified that Hunter Biden invoked his father in business dealings with Romanian, Chinese, Kazakhstani, and Ukrainian companies, resulting in millions of dollars flowing to the Biden family. They're also calling out Biden for his handling of classified documents. House Republicans are now calling for Biden to be impeached.
All right. So now, of course, the initial response to all of this is, oh, who cares now? He's not the nominee, right? Who cares? This doesn't matter. This is all politics. None of it matters. Well, I guess if you don't care about the rule of law or the Constitution or abuse of power, and, you know, you're right, he's not the nominee anymore. But can I just remind everybody of one small little teensy-weensy detail that you may have overlooked? He's the president. That guy right there, whose family made $27 million from foreign adversaries to this country. He's the president of the United States. I mean, he doesn't know it, but we do. All right, we'll get into the whole, oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. You sure as hell bet it matters. And we'll get into that in a second. But let's get to the details of this real fast. John Solomon from justthenews.com has a very good write-up here. Republican-led House committees leading the impeachment probe into Joe Biden concluded Monday the president engaged in impeachable conduct by helping to enrich his family with millions of dollars in business schemes that traded on his name and then defrauded voters by lying to cover up the scandal. I want to emphasize that here, because this goes well beyond what he did when he was vice president and he was selling his office and selling his plane and selling access to himself for his family to get rich. And of course, when I say his office and his plane, I mean our office and our plane. All right, but it goes well beyond that. The most damning part of this is what happened while he was president, when he engaged in obstruction of justice and a cover-up through his Justice Department. So let's skip down here in this very good write-up. All right, to the details. Let's start here. Biden family received more than $27 million from foreign sources. The committee's investigation found Hunter Biden and other family members received over $27 million from foreign sources. These funds were often obscured in shell companies to hide their true origin, the committee says. Some of the funds sent from China, for example, ended up directly in Joe Biden's bank account. Shell companies, I don't know if you know what that means. They set up a bunch of different LLCs, all right, with all these different names involved with them. It's like there was a new company being formed every other month. And they ended up with upwards to 30 different companies. And each company had their own bank accounts, many of them offshore bank accounts. And what happened was money would be wired into one account, and then some of it would go to that one, and some of it would go to that one, and the money gets like transferred all over the freaking place. The reason why they call them shell companies is not because a lot of them are in the Caribbean where the banking rules are kind of loose, and so you can see the seashells while you're counting your money. No, they're shell companies because you know the old shell game where they would hide the little ball or the little pea under 3 shells, and then you would move it around, and you couldn't find where the ball was because you were hiding it. That's what it is. They're hiding the money. Legitimate companies who aren't engaged in illegal behavior, who aren't trying to hide their money and their transactions from investigators, don't do this kind of thing. But the Biden family did. Totally legit, completely legal. What did you sell again? Yeah. For example, here, as part of the $27 million, Hunter Biden received significant compensation from several foreign ventures and positions. You know, Hunter Biden, that's the crack addict and whoremonger. For example, his role on the board of directors of the embattled Ukrainian energy company Burisma, whose owner, Mykola Unpronounceable, was facing corruption allegations in Ukraine. Biden received $1 million a year salary for his role on the board. $1 million a year for his role on the board. Hunter Biden, who has never had any experience in anything having to do with an energy company in his entire life. But suddenly he gets a job in Ukraine, can't even speak Ukraine. He had never been to Ukraine. He got a job on the board of an energy company in Ukraine for $1 million a year. Oh, and his father was the vice president, and Barack Obama, the president, put him in charge of Ukraine policy. I forgot about that. Oh, well, now it all makes sense. Totally legit. After receiving that position, he would use his influence in Washington, D.C. to help organize a public relations campaign for the company and work to shut down the corruption investigation into Zlochevsky, even meeting personally with State Department officials. By the way, when you do things like that, you're supposed to register. It's called FARA, Foreign Agent Registration Act. You're working on behalf of a foreign government, a foreign entity, so you're supposed to register with the government. He didn't do that, but they're still not investigating that crime yet, which is remarkable. Every investigation in Hunter Biden right now is just for tax fraud. In other instances, Hunter Biden received a $5 million loan in 2017 from entities connected to the energy firm CEFC China Energy. Justin News reported in 2022 that Hunter Biden had received $5 million interest-free forgivable loan. You know what a $5 million interest-free forgivable loan is? It's free money. Think about that. Forgivable loan. Now, we're going to give this money to you. It's just a loan. You don't have to pay any interest, and you don't have to pay it back. It's a loan. Funny how that works. $5 million. Emails from Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop show that the loan was intended to benefit the Biden family, referred to as the BD family. Biden's status as vice president, a selling point in the investigation from the members of the House, went into great detail about how it was all because he was vice president. None of this business, none of this money, none of these transactions ever occur if Joe Biden is not vice president. Also, this is very important. The committee identified significant financial assistance to Biden family members from Democratic donors. This is a way for Democrats to influence the Biden administration without actually having a paper trail of campaign donations, right? We're just going to give you loans. We're going to loan your granddaughter some money. We're going to loan your son some money. Oh, by the way, I'd love for you to look into this business interest of mine. That goes right up to the borderline of bribery, doesn't it? But of course, that's a very specific crime. So we would never actually say that Joe Biden was being bribed, would we? The committees argue that the Biden family used Joe Biden's positions of public trust to obtain over $8 million in loans from these donors. Now, of course, this is all against the law if these donors actually make campaign contributions of this level. But if they're just loans to, good friends of mine that just happen to be related to Joe Biden, well, then that's fine. And as you know, Joe Biden says it all the time, family's the most important thing, isn't it? In his testimony before the House Oversight Committee, presidential brother James Biden told investigators that he too received loans from Democrat donors. The first loan uncovered by the impeachment investigators was an $800,000 loan from Joey Langston, a friend of President Biden and donor to his campaigns. Langston was convicted and spent time in prison for attempting to illegally influence a judge for his client. During the same time period, he was loaning James Biden money. Great group of people these Bidens hang out with, isn't it? Isn't it amazing how many people do close business or have close associations with Hunter or James or Joe Biden, and then they end up in jail? That's weird, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure that's true in your situation as well. They're just an average American family. All right, here's the most important part as far as I'm concerned. The Justice Department. IRS whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, who worked together on the Hunter Biden investigation, approached Congress last year with complaints that the Justice Department was improperly giving Biden preferential treatment to avoid filing charges against him. In his first letter to Congress, Shapley also asserted that DOJ officials were limiting prosecutor David Weiss's ability to pursue charges against the first son. This is obstruction of justice. This is obstruction of justice. This is obstruction of justice. And if this were a Republican, there'd already be a perp walk going on. In one episode that illustrates the whistleblower's frustrations, Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Wolf, that's a Biden appointee, a deputy to Weiss, intervened to stop a search warrant at Joe Biden's Delaware home over optics concerns, despite admitting there would be evidence at that location, Shapley testified. AUSA Wolf told investigators they should not ask about President Biden during witness interviews, even when the business communications of his son clearly referenced him. That's Joe Biden's Justice Department, appointees of the president intervening in a criminal investigation saying, don't ask about Joe Biden. That's obstruction of justice. That's high crimes and misdemeanors. In another instance, the IRS whistleblowers said that they were prevented from pursuing evidence that indicated additional crimes were committed by Hunter Biden. Federal prosecutors recently confirmed in a California tax case against Biden what Shapley has told Congress since last year, that they possessed evidence of potential Foreign Agents Registration Act violations. That's what I was talking about, FARA, but that the IRS investigators were precluded from pursuing it further. It's obstruction of justice, and it's the use of the Justice Department to protect the president and his family from criminal prosecution. And let's not forget, 1 year ago, July of 2023, when these whistleblowers came forward, they were 2 weeks away from a plea deal that David Weiss, the U.S. attorney in Delaware, had negotiated with Hunter Biden's lawyers, that everyone agreed to and signed off on, that would have given Hunter Biden immunity from any other charges going forward. The judge in that case threw that plea deal out, and it only happened because Chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, Jason Smith, engineered this fantastic and rock-solid, airtight testimony from these two whistleblowers who have been absolutely destroyed, or they've attempted to destroy them, destroy their reputations by people who are working at the IRS, people working at the Justice Department, and of course, the mainstream media. Joe Biden is corrupt. His family is corrupt. They are criminals. And he is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors and obstruction of justice. Quickly, one more thing from the Oversight Committee and their announcement of this. The evidence produced by our impeachment inquiry is the strongest case for impeachment of a sitting president the House of Representatives has ever investigated. Stronger case than Donald Trump, stronger case than Bill Clinton, stronger case than Richard Nixon, stronger case than Andrew Johnson. Right? It was Andrew Johnson was the last one. Yeah, before that. Right here. Evidence shows that department officials slow-walked the investigation, informed defense counsel of future investigative actions, prevented line investigators from taking otherwise ordinary investigative steps, and allowed the statute of limitations to expire on the most serious felony charges. This is corrupt stuff. It's incredibly corrupt stuff. But I know what you're saying, and I know what the media is saying, and sadly, I even know what some Republicans are saying. Who cares? What's the big deal? What does it matter? What difference does it make? He's not the nominee. Let's move on. Really? Is that where you are on this? Is it? Okay. I get it. Yeah, you're right. Kamala Harris is the problem now, right? Yeah, Joe Biden, we've already destroyed him. Trump's already beaten him, right? So let's just move on. Okay, fine. Except for this. Law and order. Right and wrong. And the fact that Nancy Pelosi would impeach Donald Trump if he woke up on the wrong side of the bed, if she has the opportunity. You want to unilaterally disarm? Oh, can't we move on? Enough with the impeachments. No, not really. Because the reason why you impeach presidents over nothing like they did to Donald Trump is so the next president can get away with it when he's guilty of the most heinous crimes and misdemeanors that a president has ever conducted in office. Because, oh, we're just tired of the impeachment thing. It's just so political. Oh, so is that why you trumped up charges against Donald? So that when a real criminal came by, you can say, oh, it's just political. Sorry. It doesn't work that way. We care about the Constitution. We care about right and wrong. And by the way, oh, the politics of it doesn't matter anymore because he's not even running for re-election. Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of other people running for re-election. Let's start with members of the House of Representatives. There are a lot of Democrats who would love to not have to vote on these articles of impeachment. You see, when Democrats line up and they say, nope, we shouldn't impeach Joe Biden over this, what they're telling the people who live in their district that they're just fine with this kind of corruption. And there's a lot of Republicans who are running in those House districts right now who would love to go knocking on the door saying, look at what Joe Biden did. Here's the evidence. And your Democrat congressman thinks it's just fine because he voted no on impeachment proceedings. Will you put me in the House in his place, and I'll take law and order seriously. So let's say the Republicans get enough votes to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate. Well, they're never going to convict. Well, guess what? Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats knew they would never convict Donald Trump the 2 times they impeached him, but they sent it anyway. Why? Because they know what they're doing. I hope the Republicans do. Because once it went to the Senate, then senators had to have a moment of truth where they voted up or down on impeaching Donald Trump. And some of those Republicans got squishy, didn't they? And they voted, yes, we should impeach him. Well, I bet there's quite a few Democrats right now in some not so safe states who don't want that moment of truth. Between now and Election Day, the last thing they want is to let the people of their states, like Wyoming and like Pennsylvania, the last thing they want is to tell the people of their states that they're just fine with Joe Biden-style corruption. One other person involved here. That would be the aforementioned Kamala Harris. You move this impeachment forward, Kamala Harris has to speak to it. Kamala Harris, do you think Joe Biden did anything wrong? Are you okay with this kind of behavior? Would you allow this kind of behavior in the Kamala Harris White House? Will members of your family be dealing with foreign countries the same way Hunter Biden and James Biden dealt with foreign countries when you're president of the United States? If not, why not? And will you pardon any member of the Biden family? This is how it's done, Republicans, and this is what needs to be done today. These are crazy times, if you haven't noticed, and there's peace of mind and security for our country, security for our leaders, and security for our families. We want security because we're feeling a little insecure these days. But think about it. You're not financially secure if all your eggs are in one basket, right? Gold and silver are an excellent way to diversify your savings. They're a hedge against inflation, and they're a physical asset that's in high demand globally from the wealthy to even central banks. And through my friends at Birch Gold Group, you also can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. That's right. You can diversify an old IRA or 401k for no money out of pocket into an IRA in gold and silver. It's one thing you can do to secure your family savings. So text my name, Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, to 989898. I want you to receive a free, no-obligation info kit and learn the role precious metals play in your overall savings strategy. Again, that's my name, Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, to 989898. They've got an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers. You can trust Birch Gold like I do. Just text Larry to 989898. Do it today. Thanks. As you know, the media has been sheltering Kamala Harris. She hasn't had to answer any questions. She hasn't had to give an interview. She hasn't had to give a press conference. She's been scripted. She is a product. She's just it's a Hollywood script they've created here. And remember, like 3 months ago, the media was openly speculating about Joe Biden replacing Kamala Harris on the ticket because she was a punchline. She was a joke. Now, I told you 3 months ago that ultimately Kamala Harris would be the nominee. They couldn't go forward with Joe Biden. They were going to have to be stuck with Kamala. And so you were prepared for this. I don't think the media was prepared for how bad she is, though. Her staff, they've been protecting her, but they can't continue to do it, right? So they trotted her out this weekend. And they sort of tested the waters, answering a question of a reporter. She was in Pennsylvania. I think she was like hopping off her bus, going into a sandwich shop or something. And, you know, last week she announced her big communist takeover of the economy, including $25,000 free money for anybody for a first-time down payment on a house. And the increase of the child tax credit. Up to $6,000, which, by the way, they stole completely from the Trump campaign. Now, any person, any politician who proposes major financial moves like this, major economic impact on the budget, because $25,000, that ain't nothing. And for every first-time homebuyer to get free 25 grand, that's going to cost some money on the budget. You have to offset it with either budget cuts or with tax increases, right? Any politician knows that. So Kamala Harris was asked, how are you going to pay for it? Watch her off the cuff, unscripted, right off the top of her head response to a simple question like, how are you going to pay for this?
You unveiled some economic policies last week.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're going to pay for those? And can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. And when we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools, again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. When you are strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits and it pays for itself.
Return on investment is the magic word of the day, apparently. It's like she made a bet with somebody before she went off the bus. Hey, guys, I'm going to answer a question, and I want $100 every time I say return on investment. But first of all, it has to be explained to Kamala Harris and every Democrat and everyone in the media, apparently, that these are not investments. Investments are money that you put into something that might appreciate over time and then give you a return on your investment, right? You can either invest in a business or a company or in gold or that sort of thing. This is a big government program that uses tax dollars to pick winners and losers and just hand out free money. That's not an investment. And you don't actually get a return on that into the federal budget. You may think that it's good for guys. Well, what did she say? This is going to help child poverty and it's going to help children because of the earned. That's fine. That's maybe a noble cause, but the money's got to come from somewhere. This isn't an answer in any way whatsoever. And of course, she talked herself into circles, and she just kept going back to her little comfort blanket. Well, return on investment. Just say return on investment. Trust me, it'll be fine. It pays for itself. No, it really, really, really doesn't pay for itself in any way whatsoever. But the word salad continues. Frankly, I like a little oil and vinegar, maybe some balsamic with my word salad, but instead this one was served dry. She went off script at a campaign event, a smallish one in Pennsylvania. You know, when they do the big rallies with all the cameras, they make sure the teleprompters are there and they're scripted. But here we are. And by the way, do you notice this happened in the last clip too? In the background, you see her husband, Doug Emhoff. You know, he's the guy who had sex with the babysitter and got her pregnant. Yeah, that guy. You look in the background here. Where are they? And they're always looking up. They can't even make eye contact. It's one of those things where you know you're going to just bust out laughing because you realize what a moron this woman is. So Walls is staring at the ground with his wife. They look like they're mourning something. Like, is there a coffin there on the floor? It's like and then Doug Emhoff is just staring off into space. Look at the kind of loving, devotional support she has from her husband and her running mate. So same thing with this one. They're standing in the background and look again. What's with Tim Walz constantly staring at the ground? It's like, I can't, because if I look up, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to laugh because she's such a moron. Here she is talking about democracy. She's a Democrat. You would think that she would have 39 seconds of just standard boilerplate, what a wonderful country and democracy we are. But listen to this word salad and how bad she is when she goes off script.
Our election is about understanding the importance of this beautiful country of ours in terms of what we stand for around the globe as a democracy. As a democracy, we know there's a duality to the nature of democracy. On the one hand, incredible strength when it is intact. What it does for its people to protect and defend their rights, their liberty, and their freedom. Incredibly strong and incredibly fragile.
Well, I'm sold. I think Miss South Carolina is going to do just great this week at the big pageant. There is a duality democracy. I hadn't really thought about it, you know, because she's so deep and she thinks on a higher plane than the rest of us. But at least the delivery is good. Look at Tim Walz, like someone shot his puppy. What is going on here? And is this not a beta stance? Look at the hands. Isn't that somebody? We got to get the, hey, Kevin, can we do a special segment with the body language experts to talk about Tim Walz's hand position here? That's got to be, that's like uber beta, isn't it? All right, so they know they can't just trot Kamala Harris out. She's wholly unlikable. She speaks in word salad Mad Lib limericks, and she doesn't know her own policies, right? So they decided for the Sunday shows, what they're going to do is trot out some other people who are way smarter and incredibly more appealing and likable and warm. Like, the Wicked Witch of Lansing, Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan. When this is the warm and fuzzy, appealing version of your candidate, you're going to have a rough 80 days ahead of you, okay? So I got to hand it to Kristen Welker at Meet the Press. She asked this question, which I think she expected Gretchen Whitmer to have a better answer to. Otherwise, she would have never asked it, right? But she said, you know, some people are nervous about Tim Walz because he had some radical left-wing policies up there when it came to illegal aliens, you know, giving them free health care, giving them driver's license, giving them, you know, whatever they wanted, just like Gavin Newsom out there in California. Should people be worried about that, you know, rolling out to the national level? Let's see how Gretchen handled that tough line of questioning.
Well, let me ask you about her running mate, Tim Walz, and particularly on the issue of immigration. Obviously, some of his policies in his state have come into focus. He signed into law initiatives allowing undocumented immigrants to apply for driver's licenses, free tuition at public universities, and enroll in the state's free healthcare program for low-income residents. Would you like to see the Harris administration adopt those same policies, Governor?
Well, I can tell you, Tim Walz is a pragmatic guy. He's a Midwesterner just like me. And I think some of the wonderful things he's done in Minnesota resonate with, Americans in all states.
Well, let me ask you about her running.
Wow. So it's a real easy way to say, listen, first of all, he's the running mate and he's running for vice president. So his job is to focus on Kamala Harris's priorities, number one. And number two, when you're a governor, you have a different set of problems that need to be addressed at your state's level. And he thought that it was prudent and judicious to handle these things based on the circumstances in Minnesota. But a solution for Minnesota is not necessarily going to be the best solution for Alabama or for North Carolina. So I think that everyone just needs to settle down about it. No, instead, she said, well, seems practical and pragmatic to me. Sure. Free driver's license, free health care, and free college tuition if you're an illegal immigrant. Think about this for a minute. You're an American citizen, or even better, you're a legal immigrant to this country. You came here 10 years ago, and you came here the right way, and you followed all the laws and followed all the rules, and you pay your taxes. And you have a child who now wants to go to college, and you don't live in Minnesota. You live in another state. But your child really wants to go to University of Minnesota because Golden Gophers, right? Who wouldn't? So your child, your U.S. citizen child of you, also a legal U.S. citizen, your child applies to the University of Minnesota and they get accepted. Of course, it's going to cost you $75,000 a year, but that's okay because that's the American way. So you now have to pay $75,000 a year for your child, your American citizen child of you, an American citizen, to go to the University of Minnesota. But a family who just arrived here last year, illegally crossing the border, relocating to Minnesota, and they have a child who graduates, they get into the University of Minnesota, they go tuition free, thanks to Governor Tim Walz. And Gretchen Whitmer, the surrogate for the Harris campaign, calls that pragmatic. You can't tell me that this is not a very clear choice this November. between two different approaches to the federal government. By the way, we have another video here to describe exactly how Kamala Harris is going to pay for all that, because that whole return on investment thing apparently isn't washing. So we got a good other alternative response to it.
There's so many Trump supporters in my comments right now asking me dumb questions like this because they clearly don't understand how the economy works. Let me explain how it's perfectly feasible for Kamala to give everybody free money. If you'll look at this chart behind me, you'll see a weather map, and you can clearly see here that almost every day in the US it rains. Like all over the country it rains. Okay, and what do we know happens after it rains? One of these things pops up. Okay, what Kamala's planning to do is when the rainbow comes up, we're going to have a task force of people go out to the end of the rainbow where they will find one of these. These kind gentlemen have been giving out pots of gold to us for generations. And what happens is the other politicians have known about this secret and they just take the gold for themselves. Like they don't even share it. But what Kamala's planning to do is pump these pots of gold into the economy and back into the hands of the American people. And I commend her for that. So y'all need to get woke, okay? It's time to be unburdened by what has been.
All right. Well, I mean, it's hard to argue with that kind of logic. It's as good a option as any that I can see. In fact, that could be the candidate for Kamala Harris as chief Council of Chief Economic Advisors, as far as I know. That was good stuff. You proud of yourself, Kevin, for finding that one?
Of course.
You're really excited. You just really wanted to get that one in there. That was not in the original rundown, by the way. That was a surprise Kevin edition. Can we hear it? Nice job, Kevin. Can we get back to the rundown now?
You bet.
Thank you. Tim Walz, by the way, the aforementioned, who decided to give free tuition and free health care and driver's license to anyone in his country illegally, no matter whether they've got criminal records or they've been vetted or what have you. Tim Walz was also at that same campaign appearance with Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania, and he said something that's getting a lot of attention. And I've got some opinions about this too. Let's listen first.
Some of us who have less hair and are old enough can remember when you could go to Thanksgiving, watch a Steelers game with your relatives, and not complain about politics the whole time, not be on each other's neck, because you shared a commitment to democracy, a commitment to personal freedom, a commitment to public education, a commitment to infrastructure. We don't call each other names. We don't do it. And we don't use the least fortunate amongst us as punchlines for our jokes because they're our neighbors. They're our neighbors. And so you're...
All right. So first of all, I don't know about you, but whenever I get together with my family at Thanksgiving, we love to hold hands and thank God for the blessings of our shared support of infrastructure. It's always at the top of the list. Do people really talk like this? But let's go to the beginning part of this because, oh, by the way, this guy, no self-respecting Minnesotan would go, even if you're running for office, you don't go there to Allegheny County and start talking about how you love watching Steelers games. First of all, the Steelers don't play on Thanksgiving, okay? It's the Cowboys and the Lions, right? Maybe the Steelers, are playing one of those two teams. But if you're a Vikings fan, you don't talk about how great it is to watch a Steelers game. That's just right there. That shows you what kind of fraud he is. But this part really caught people's eyes.
Some of us who have less hair and are old enough can remember when you could go to Thanksgiving, watch a Steelers game with your relatives, and not complain about politics the whole time.
All right. Now, a couple of things that need to be pointed out. The first is in Tim Walz's Minnesota during the pandemic, if you went to your family's house at Thanksgiving, well, you ran the risk of being fined or arrested even. The neighbors were looking out the window and calling his snitch line because he outlawed Thanksgiving. I'm not being hyperbolic. Walz announced Wednesday that new restrictions will be in place on Thanksgiving. Target a number of social activities, including gatherings between households, indoor dining, youth sports. Oh, there goes your Steelers games. Walt said the restrictions will go into effect starting Friday and will last until December 18th. We understand that it's hard not to celebrate Thanksgiving with the people you love, said Dr. Cindy Firkins-Smith, president and CEO of Caris Health. This guy is now, oh, remember the golden days when we could go to Thanksgiving? When he was given the power as a governor, he prohibited Thanksgiving from being celebrated. What a fraud. But there's more to it than that. You know, I've actually had a couple of Thanksgivings that were ruined because of political talk. I live in a family where there are divergent political opinions. I obviously am a conservative Republican, but not everyone in my family is a conservative Republican. And I am old enough, Tim Walz, to remember when I could go to Thanksgiving and I didn't have everything screwed up by people picking fights over politics. But then something changed in this country, and Tim Walz and the Democrats are trying to make you think that what changed was Trump. Trump ruined everything. Now we debate politics and we fight about politics all the time, and it's ruining holidays. Well, I can tell you, in my mixed family, every single time a holiday is ruined by politics, it's not because the Trump supporters or the Republicans or the conservatives decide that they want to start talking politics. Nope, it's always this guy. It's always this guy at the table. There's always a pajama boy who just came back from college and his professor or his girlfriend or Barack Obama has inspired him to wear pajamas, drink hot chocolate, and talk about getting health insurance. Let's get talking. Oh, well, Larry, that's the Obama administration. You can't blame Kamala Harris and Joe Biden for that. Really? Because this has the Biden-Harris logo on it. Here's your handy guide for responding to crazy MAGA nonsense this Thanksgiving. Barack Obama is the guy who compelled his supporters to get into people's faces and start debating politics with them. Listen, your grandma might have a different opinion about politics and healthcare, and you got to convince her otherwise. So we're going to give you all talking points to take back to Thanksgiving and Christmas so you can convince the people in your family how wrong they are. That's where this all started. And I'll be damned if I'm going to sit back and let Tim Walz and the Democrats rewrite history and tell us that the vitriol and division that we've got in this country right now over politics is all Trump's fault. And that's exactly what they're doing, make no mistake. This morning, Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe on MSNBC. They're telegraphing their punches. They all have the same talking points. Watch.
You know, there really is. Sam's right. There is a generational divide here that usually sells very well in presidential politics if it's carried through the right way. I will say also, the one word that I always saw as Donald Trump's biggest challenge was exhaustion. Not his personal exhaustion, but the exhaustion of those who had supported him in 2016, some who still supported him in 2020, but were exhausted, especially after January the 6th.
You see, this is what they're going to do. Oh, the American people, we're just done with this and all the division. We're just exhausted. Can we just move on? And if we get Trump again, that means it's going to be 4 more years of this. Let's just turn the page. Even if the policies were better, even if the economy was better, it's just, I'm just exhausted by it all. That's what they're trying to do. Listen to him again.
Us who have less hair and are old enough can remember when you could go to Thanksgiving, watch a Steelers game with your relatives, and not complain about politics the whole time.
In other words, vote for us and we promise not to ruin your Thanksgiving anymore. But if you vote for the other guy, I'm sorry, we're just going to screw you up again. We're going to be there every single holiday calling you a racist. So you better vote for us. That's what they're saying. And for Joe Scarborough to say, oh, there's just people are just exhausted by the Trump thing. Yeah, it's really great that for the last 8 years of our life, we've been lied to and screamed at and defamed and slandered by Joe Scarborough and his pals in the media. Yeah, we're exhausted, all right. We're exhausted from Russian collusion. We're exhausted by the very fine people on both sides. We're exhausted by insurrection. We're exhausted by all of the lies you continue to tell on a daily basis. We're exhausted having to fight and defend ourselves and to tell the truth while you just lie every single day whenever you get an opportunity. And then when you're caught in the lie, you just move on and never apologize. You're damn right we're exhausted. We're exhausted because you've exhausted us. But we are not going to buy into this. And no one's going to let them rewrite history. Let's swing back over here to a CNN segment they did with Democrat voters asking them where they stand right now on the election. Actually, forgive me, it's Republican voters. And they specifically talked to Republican voters who did not support Donald Trump. And I want you to hear from this one person, because this is all you need to know. Between now and Election Day, this is what you need to adopt. For all those friends of yours in your life who are like, I don't like the tweets, and I don't like that he calls people names, and I just don't like the division, and I don't like all the mean. This is what you need to tell them.
I see Kamala and I see Walz as being so far left that it concerns me. I'm comfortable with Trump. We had 4 years of Trump. We know what Trump is. I'm not voting for him to be my Valentine. I'm not voting for him to be my best friend.
That's right. Period. End of discussion. Please don't try to convince your friends, oh, Trump's really likable. Now, listen, there are some people who just don't like Trump, okay? Why fight that? I'm being serious. I'm being honest. I mean, listen, I find him amusing. But if you don't see why people don't like him, come on. He's a New Yorker. New Yorkers are obnoxious, okay? That's not everybody's cup of tea. The answer is, who cares? I'm sorry, honestly, I think there's probably been 2 likable presidents in our history, Ronald Reagan and George Washington. And guess what? The left hated Ronald Reagan too. You're not electing him to be your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You're not electing him to be your Valentine. You're not electing him to be your best friend. You're electing him to fix what's broken. And sometimes it takes an to fix what's broken. Sometimes you want somebody to get in there and be a son of a. That's how we fix things. We're not exhausted. We're not sick and tired. We're not done with this, not by a long shot. That's what they want you to feel. They want you to feel fatigued. They want you to be done with it. It's like, oh, all right, fine, let's just get through it. Nope, not this time. Not this time. That may have worked in 2020 with the pandemic and the COVID and all that, but no, not this time. Stakes are too high. It's not going to work. And you will not ruin another Thanksgiving. So Kamala Harris is on this bus tour. She's on her way to Chicago for the convention that starts today. But in the meantime, she's doing this bus tour through these states that she has to win. She has to convince the voters in those states that she's likable. So in Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh, they stopped at a sandwich shop, a local chain there in the Pittsburgh area. It's called Primanti's. And they had this big photo op. And we're going to show you the photo op that happened inside the restaurant in just a minute. But what's more interesting is what happened outside the restaurant, because there were a bunch of people there who got kicked out of Primanti's to make way for Kamala Harris and her little event. They got kicked out. They were there. They were eating sandwiches. They were enjoying their day, but they got kicked out. Not for security reasons, not for Secret Service or anything like that. No, they got kicked out because Kamala wanted to bring her own vetted ringers in there for her photo op. She wanted to make sure that when she went and acted like a real person and was super likable in a sandwich shop, that everybody in the sandwich shop was already her friend and supported her. The last thing they wanted is for someone in that sandwich shop to say, yeah, no, I'm not down with the Kamalanism. I'm going to stick with Trump. So all of these people got kicked out. Look.
They kicked us out of Primanti, bro. They said it's a problem. You are terrible people.
Tell us again what happened at Primanti Brothers?
They kicked us out of Primanti Brothers so that they could get the paid actors inside.
Ridiculous.
Yes. So there's all the paid actors.
Look at all these people. My God.
Holy hell. All these actors in these vans. They can't even afford.
Now, I don't know if they're really actors, okay, like they're union card member actors that, appear in the national tour of Les Miserables when they're not at a sandwich shop. But they might as well be actors. Look at van after van after van full of real ordinary people that are there to act like they like Kamala Harris. Here's another angle of it. And that group, by the way, I love the fact that some smart person decided to hand out Trump shirts and signs and turn it into a counter rally. So take a look. Here's another angle of the same restaurant.
Not one car.
Yeah.
Where are all the Kamala supporters? She's going to be eating a sandwich by herself. There's no one here. I don't see one Kamala sign.
See, there's nobody in the parking lot. They kicked everybody out of the restaurant. I was like, well, who's going to be there? They literally bust them in vans. And then they filled the restaurant with their ringers. Now, here's what it looked like. I'm not even going to turn the volume up because it doesn't matter. I'll let it play while we talk here. But you can see how orchestrated it is after they let everybody in so they could all sit at the table and get their sandwiches. Now, here's the media person, and they're all directing where the cameras can go so they can get their shots for the evening news. You can line up over here, bring your cameras over there, and look, the place is full. It's hopping. The economy's great. And look at they're all white, too. Have you noticed that? Here's Doug Emhoff just moving around. Oh, there's one black dude. All right, that's cool. And they're shaking hands, and they're just meeting people who happen to be at the restaurant that day having sandwiches. It's so natural. They're so likable. And they literally bust them in those white vans. I love how this cameraman is zooming in on the two people of color there, too. This is ABC News's coverage. And, of course, they're not going to report that they forcibly removed anybody from the restaurant who supported Donald Trump. It's like Kamala Harris stopped at this restaurant, a family-owned chain in the Pittsburgh area, and was met with hordes of her fans and supporters. Like, these people could work for the campaign for all we know. Look how likable and natural she is. It's really easy to be likable and natural when you know everybody's going to agree with you. This entire thing is fraudulent. Let's see if we can hear her. We're really just fortunate to have her. She's so likable. She's so genuine. She's so down to earth. She's America's Mamala, is what she is. So they kick everybody out of that restaurant, and then they fill it with their own paid patrons, or at least their favored patrons. I don't know if actual money was transacted, although I'm pretty sure they got free lunches out of it. And then they get their photo op, right? And meanwhile, the people who had been eating there are pushed across the street, and they have a little counter rally with the Trump signs. That's great. But it's not even the most cringy, awkward event that happened in Pennsylvania over the weekend with the Kamala campaign. Take a look at this one. You're in Pennsylvania, you got to stop at a Sheetz, right? So here's how CNN reported on this breaking news. Kamala Harris is at a Sheetz.
Outside the margin of error. CNN's Jeff Zeleny is joining us now. And Jeff, we're looking at live pictures of the vice president with her husband, Tim Walz, and his wife. They are in Pennsylvania on this bus tour as they go through that critical battleground state just outside of Pittsburgh. Again, Jeff Zeleny joining us now. And Jeff, they're on the bus tour looking to Thursday, of course, when she's going to accept this nomination. And they've got some momentum that we're seeing bear out in new polling.
They certainly do. And it looks like the vice president is getting a bag of Doritos.
I think it's
like
Sheetz.
a Wawa.
Yes,
Sheetz,
I think
perhaps.
it's Sheetz because they're in
Sheetz.
Pittsburgh or
Okay,
outside of Pittsburgh.
So you would know, you obviously are a veteran of Pennsylvania reporting. And my guess is if she did a Sheetz, she will go to a Wawa later.
She must.
That's true. If you're in Pennsylvania, you're a Sheetz person or you're a Wawa person, and there is no marrying the two. It's like Michigan, Ohio State, man. It's just not going to happen. Now, you can say, oh, she got a Dorito. Breaking news. Breaking. We've got a red siren here breaking on CNN. Kamala Harris getting Doritos at a Sheetz. Now, you saw how awkward it was for her to walk through the restaurant. But you see the moment when her husband, Doug Emhoff, found her the bag of Doritos, right? Did you see that moment? This is critically important because, well, I hate to tell you this, but there's already a scandal surrounding the Kamala Harris campaign. We're calling it Dorito Gate. Let me just show you that moment again where Doug Emhoff hands her the Doritos. Here, it's very important that I show you this. Watch
Just outside of.
All right, see where he hands her the Doritos, and do you see who this is right between the two of them? That's Tim Walz, right? That is Tim Walz, the running mate. And watch. Up. Did you see how he saw him hand her the Doritos? Tim Walz, at this moment, at 6:01 p.m. in Coraopolis, Pennsylvania, on the Harris bus tour, knows for certain that Kamala Harris has Doritos. Because Doug Emhoff just handed her Doritos. Tim Walz saw the handoff, right? Are you with me? Are you tracking this? All right, this is Dorito Gate.
Dorito.
You want Dorito. You just said you want Dorito. We're catching all of this on camera so they can be part of some sort of like up, and there it is again. And watch Doug, or watch Tim Walz. Oh, Tim Walz saw it, right? She got her Doritos. She came in. She said she wanted Doritos. Now, a little later, in the same visit, after she already got her Doritos from her husband, here's Tim Walz. You see what he's got in his hand? He's got a bag of Doritos. Watch what Kamala does. See this? Hey, Kamala, here's your Doritos. Now, look, Doug's already got the Doritos that he got for her. And Tim Walz saw that Doug got the Doritos for her, but now he's getting her the Doritos, and he hands her the Doritos. It's Doritos Gate. Now, why would they do that? Why would they repeat this meaningless gesture of first her husband giving her Doritos, and then Tim Walz acting like she didn't have Doritos and still needed Doritos, and he got her Doritos? Are you tracking? Why did they do that? Because if you go to Tim Walz's social media platform, if you go to X, he posted this video.
Can you switch that, Larry?
There you go.
Hey, Larry, we didn't get that.
Oh, did I not share it with you? I'm so sorry. All right, here we go. Here's the video that was shared on Tim Walz's.
Corn nuts over there,
Isn't this it?
yeah,
There you go.
Now he's acting like he found Doritos for her, but we just saw him Doug get him Doritos, and this is what he put: every road trip needs a snack break. Doritos acquired. I got you, Kamala Harris. See, for his social media platform, he needed his own video of him giving giving Kamala the Doritos. But over on Kamala's social media account, they had the video of Doug, her very loving husband, who never cheated on his first wife with the babysitter and got her pregnant. Got her the Doritos. In other words, all of it is fake. It's all manufactured. It's all scripted, down to the camera angle. It's an embarrassment. It's awful. This is how they are. By the way, one other beautiful thing about this whole visit to Sheetz, so we can be there with Pennsylvanians, because Pennsylvanians love Sheetz. Kamala obviously loves her Doritos, and she loves Sheetz because she's one of us. She loves Sheetz, except for the fact that the Kamala Harris-Joe Biden administration is suing Sheetz right now. Yeah. The Justice Department has actually brought a civil case against the ownership of Sheetz. Do you know why? Because when Sheetz hires people, they do criminal background checks on them to make sure they're not convicted felons. And the Justice Department says that's a civil rights violation. So Kamala Harris loves Sheetz. She would just prefer Sheetz hire more convicts, like Hunter Biden. All right, I hate to go here, but I feel like we have to. Is Kamala Harris drunk? Seriously. Is she drunk? And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I mean, I've had alcoholism in my family, and it's not a pretty thing. And I know that people can be funny and charming, and I know I'm hilarious when I'm drunk. But if you've got an alcohol problem, if you're drinking on the job, if you're an elected official and you do constant media appearances under the influence, that's wrong. That's a problem. And we've been watching Kamala Harris's behavior for quite some time now, and we legitimately think that there may be something going on here. Now, here's some video evidence for you. And as you watch these videos, as we all have over the years, I want you to shift the paradigm for a moment, because we've always watched these videos thinking that she's a moron, that she's an imbecile, that she's just a terrible, cringy politician who laughs at her own jokes and is completely awkward around people. And no one's ever actually told her, ma'am, why are you acting so weird? Yeah, we've always shot it through that lens. But I want you to shift your paradigm for a moment. And I want you to watch all these videos, assuming that Kamala Harris, before she showed up for this speech or for this important event or for this media appearance, she did 7 shots of Tito's. Now let's watch.
Is getting a fresh turkey?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's being delivered
And so
tomorrow.
just little 1 minute out. I have 1 minute.
Yeah.
Kosher salt, fresh ground pepper, maybe chop up a little thyme, and then you can mix it even with, okay, so do the salt and pepper all over it, like just like lather that baby up, right? With the, on the outside in the cavity. You could also chop up, but not with the thyme, just the salt and pepper. Mix that up also with some thyme. You could even do a little rosemary if you want, under the skin with some butter before you're going to cook it. So that butter will just melt in there. And then get a nice big bottle of cheap white wine to baste with butter. Yes, hi.
So she's drunk, right? I mean, no, seriously. If you imagine that she just did some shots of tequila and then she's acting that way, it all makes perfect sense. She's drunk. Here's another. And let's face it. She's vice president of the United States. She doesn't have a lot to do. I mean, she presides over the Senate. She casts a tie-breaking vote, and then she sits around and waits for Joe Biden to die. So she's got a lot of time on her hands. And, unlimited booze, I'm guessing, at the vice president's home. Like, why not? I mean, who among us? So here's Joe Biden. Again, I just want you to think for a second. Did Kamala Harris just, throw back a 6-pack of White Claw before she stumbled out of her campaign bus for this appearance? Just think in those terms.
Because when we think about the strength of our democracy, I think that there's a duality to the nature of democracy. When it's intact, it's so strong in terms of what it does to uphold and protect individual rights and freedoms. So strong in its nature. And it's very fragile. It will only be as strong as our willingness to fight for it.
This is how a drunk person acts. Now, I'm not saying she is drunk. I'm asking if she's drunk. And I'm saying her behavior, her speech pattern, and the way she articulates words would lend one to believe, if you were told she's just been drinking a little too much and then she has to, it's like, oh yeah, clearly she's been drinking too much, right? As soon as that seed is planted, it's all you can see. And again, listen to how she's talking. Listen to because you've been around drunk people before, right? You know how they are when they, no, listen, I really mean this. Yeah, I gotta tell you that, okay? I love you, man. And I love this country. It's the democracy. It's just, listen to how she can't fully form every word.
And it's very fragile. It will only be as strong as our willingness to fight for it.
It only as strong as fight for it, right? Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? Blows my mind to think about it. We're not done. There's way too much evidence here.
The bus has Wi-Fi and even USB outlets next to every seat. I mean, come on, imagine. You can charge your phone on your way home from work. That's good stuff.
If she's not drunk, she's just a complete moron. Because that's the only choice here. Imagine being able to charge your phone on the way home. Who wants to tell her? Who wants to break the news to her? This is how a drunk person acts. And it's multiple media appearances, right? Now, this is Charlemagne the God. So to be fair, she probably, did a bong hit or something before this show, because I think that's more, the vibe.
I want to know who's the real president of this country. Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin?
I'm sorry, I interrupted. I don't think the vice president can hear you. It's Simone. I'm so sorry, Charlemagne. We have to wrap.
She can hear me.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Madam Vice President?
So I'm sorry, we got to wrap.
Oh.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
They're acting like they can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, so who's
I can hear you.
the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
You know how you get so sometimes your fun drunk friend who is throwing the speech and saying something really profound and important about democracy, man. You gotta hear the no. You gotta hear me out. But then sometimes they get belligerent. Like if you challenge them, it's like, dude, what are you talking about? It's like, hey. Shit. Joe Biden is right. What are you talking like a Republican? Joe Biden is president, and my name is Kamala Harris, and I'm vice president. Okay. So this is where she gets into the belligerent, angry drunk mode. But drunk is drunk, whether you're the charming, fun drunk or you're the belligerent, angry drunk. And I know it's like, listen, of course, she is vice president. She doesn't have much of a job. She has a lot of free time on her hands. She doesn't have to do anything. So, of course, she's going to, you get the chance. Sure. Hey, what? 3 martini lunch? What the hell? Sure. I'm just doing Charlemagne the God later, but no big deal. Right. But if it's an important day, she's got it under control. I don't have a drinking problem. Okay. I have complete control. I know what I'm doing. Okay. If it's an important day and I got something really important to do, I'm not going to drink. Okay. Like, for instance, if it's a debate, let's say, come on, you're an elected official. A debate's a very important day in your life. So there's no way she would be sitting in the green room before a debate on ABC, drinking a little extra Chardonnay, a little barefoot, a little cupcake before she gets out on the debate stage, right? She would never do that.
The vice president have a point there?
Some things you can, many things you can't.
Let the senator answer.
Well, I would just say, hey, Joe, instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
Let's be constitutional. We got a constitution.
And yes, we can, because he reminds me of that guy in The Wizard of Oz. When you pull back the curtain, it's a really small dude.
Okay. I'm not even going to take the bait, Senator Harris, but I am going to take this to Senator.
By the way, and now George Stephanopoulos is like the friend at the party who's like, oh, okay, you know what? I got to talk to someone over. Oh, I'm sorry. What? Yeah, no, you're hilarious. No, seriously. But you know what? I gotta hook up with my friend over here. Okay, so you just go. No. Okay, sure. Tell me another one. This is right. That guy who's like, I hate being around drunk people. So now Stephanopoulos has to be polite. He's stuck at the party with Kamala Harris.
It wasn't about you.
I'm going to take this to Senator Sanders right now.
There is a reason why.
Vice president have a point.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe she got drunk at the debate too, but she knew she was going to lose anyway, right? She was just in it so she could be picked as vice president. But I think that this is an obvious pattern of behavior. So now if you go back to some of the classic Kamala moments that we've all looked at and just assumed that she was just a moron, now when you realize that she's got a serious drinking problem, well, now it all makes sense, right? Like, who can forget this moment? Obviously, she had a pina colada or two.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us,
I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Classic alcoholic behavior, especially the big, broad hand motions. What about this one?
I love electric school buses. I just love them for so many reasons. Maybe because I went to school on a school bus. We are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
So there you go. See, everything's fine, everybody. Don't worry about it. Listen, she's not stupid. She's not a moron. She's not cringe. She's not awkward. She's not the worst politician in the history of mankind. She's not that woman that the Democrats and the media were talking about a couple of months ago on how they couldn't possibly get rid of Joe Biden because what are we going to do with Kamala? No, she's not any of that. She's not the woman who in 2019 couldn't even make it to the Iowa caucuses because she was polling at 1%, even though everyone in the media was celebrating her and she got Rolls Royce and red carpet treatment. Not one Democrat would even vote for her in the primaries. No. She's not that person at all. No. Stop. Let's be real here. Kamala Harris is just a drunk. Just absolutely toasted. Just wasted. Just pissed. She is just got a serious drinking problem. That's all. It's fine. The Democratic National Convention begins today in Chicago, and, well, it's going to be a complete and total nightmare. Here's an example. Last night, there was a big pre-convention event at the Navy Pier in Chicago. This was to welcome all of the delegates, and, well, somehow, some pro-Hamas terrorist protester made her way up to the stage.
Y'all can do better than that. Mike, good morning.
150,000 people are dead. You are funding a genocide. The Harris-Biden administration keeps owing money to Israel.
The use of the face mask was probably my favorite part of this. Was she afraid she was going to catch something from the microphone, or was she afraid she was going to distribute something to the microphone? Or is she afraid somebody's going to recognize her and ruin her life and career? Oh, sorry, we got your eyes, so we're going to figure out who you are. Anyway, really good security there. What could go wrong? And on the streets, it wasn't any better. Take a look at the security perimeter that's been set up outside the United Center.
We're just 2 days out from the Democratic National Convention that's going to be held at the United Center right there. It's behind the security perimeter, those barricades all around the security perimeter here. And you can see that police are already monitoring the area. There's some Chicago police officers right there. And we even hear a helicopter up in the sky as well. So there is a lot of preparation already in place. And over here, you can see the Chicago Department of Sanitation has some trucks. We've seen those trucks in other areas around the perimeter as well, just to make sure that no other cars can get through. And they are manning some of those trucks. There's someone that's inside that truck over there. I spoke with one of the people who was manning one of those sanitation trucks on the other side of the United Center. And they tell me that they have been working long shifts, 16-hour long shifts, and their plan is to just make sure no one tries to get through the security perimeter. And if they do, they will call 911 dispatch immediately to get police attention. So we know that there's tens of thousands of protesters expected to march on the DNC, but they won't be able to get as close to the United Center, which is over there, as they would like. So should be an interesting few days. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's a heck of a security perimeter, and good reporting there, laying it out there for us on how they're trying to keep the protesters all the way out. But they're not going to be able to completely. In fact, there will definitely be pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel protesters in the arena itself at the convention. And I'm expecting a demonstration of sorts during the proceedings. I'll explain that in just a moment. But let's turn our sights down to the streets of downtown Chicago yesterday to see how things were looking. Oh, I love that banner. Feminists and LGBTQ plus people for a free Palestine. Who wants to tell them? Do you want to be the first to tell them? Who's going to break it to them? How completely moronic are these people? And thank you to the folks at Tim Pool's Timcast for that video. Good stuff on the scene there. Really good citizen journalism, by the way, going on in Chicago this week. And we'll be utilizing a lot of their video here at Town Hall and on this show as well. If you scanned the posters and banners there, you saw this was a combo platter of protests. You had your LGBTQ rights people with their flags, right? That's a beautiful flag, isn't it? Boy, it's just... then you had your pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic protesters. And then if you looked really carefully, you also saw the abortion on demand crowd, the people who wanted to make sure that women can kill their babies anytime they want in their womb. All combined in the same march because Democrats. And there's our friend Tony Knesset was down there as well. Is it Knesset or Knesset? Tony
Kinnett.
Kinnett. I love Tony. He's a Heritage guy, Daily Signal guy, and also on WIBC in Indianapolis. He was marching with-
Well, bring the war home. Piggy, piggy, go home. Well, bring the war home.
Piggy, piggy, go home, or we'll bring the war home. They all feel like they're in some Oliver Stone Vietnam movie. It's amazing how they've romanticized that era so much that they're trying to use the same language. But it's a shock, isn't it, that the Wisconsin State Police Union just endorsed Donald Trump over the Democrats? Because the whole piggy, piggy, go home, or we'll bring the war home. That's good stuff, isn't it? Meanwhile, this is how Politico. So that's what's happening in Chicago. Here's how Politico reported today on the beginning of the convention. Democrats arrive in Chicago as a party lacking drama. Oh, really? They're disciplined, orderly, and united around VP Kamala Harris, and more to the point, thwarting former President Donald Trump's restoration. Read the column. No drama there. You know, just pro-terrorist protesters marching through the streets. We had pro-abortion enthusiasts dressed up like the abortion pill, like they were some sort of weird mascot at a soccer game or something. No drama in this party. Yeah, it's amazing how there's no drama. They literally just forced their nominee off the ticket in a silent coup and handpicked his successor without one person casting a vote for her. But Politico marvels how there's no drama. You know, it's amazing when you're a totalitarian how you can, you know, stamp down the drama whenever it starts to flare up. You know, say what you will about Stalin, but there wasn't a whole lot of drama, right? Good old Politico. Yeah, there's no drama there. No drama in Chicago as the DNC begins. I mean, of course, unless you're a business owner in Chicago. If you're a business owner in Chicago, you got a little bit of drama.
We are on Washington and Wabash outside of a Garland building, which houses a number of businesses, including stores and some restaurants and offices. Now, as you can see behind me, you'll notice that the front of the Garland building is covered in plywood. It's basically covering the windows and the door, and that's to be able to protect the building, and I should say the entrance of the building, from any potential unrest that could happen ahead of the, once the DNC does come around here, since we are anticipating some protests to take place. Now, the Chicago Board of Services says their crews have been busy the last few days boarding up businesses to get ahead of potential damages. Now, so far, they've secured 12 locations around the West Loop, downtown, and Daly Plaza area, with plans to board up additional businesses this weekend as a preventative measure if protests related to the DNC erupt violently.
But no drama. No drama at all. By the way, did you catch this? This may be my favorite part of this report. As Caleb Howe at Mediaite points out, this has become such a war zone Chicago has, that these guys who specialize, this is all they do, is they'll come down and they'll board up your business. ChicagoBoardUpServices.com. And I love that this is the best touch here. The original. Don't settle for the copycats. You want the original, because there's so much competition now to get your board up business. So we can board up your business so your windows don't get shattered and you don't get looted. Call the original. Chicago Board Up Services. Hi, I'm Jussie Smollett. You may know me from Maggot Country at 2 a.m. outside the subway. When I instigate race riots, I always call the original ChicagoBoardUpServices.com. That's phenomenal. I love America. I love capitalism. I love the free market system. I love that in Chicago, some entrepreneurs decided, hey, let's make a business out of it. Don't settle for the copycats, though. You want the original. It's so bad in Chicago at the DNC this week, and it's going to be so bad, that the junior senator of Pennsylvania, which, by the way, is a state, last I checked, the Democrats kind of need to win. Not just for the presidency, but also Bob Casey is in the fight for his political life there, and that could be one of the races that swings the majority in the Senate. And John Fetterman, their senator, I mean, he was the darling of the midterms in 2022. He was a rising star. He won't be going. He won't be going to the DNC because the Democrats are so anti-Israel. Now, I think it's fair to pause for a moment before we continue on the Fetterman discussion to reflect on the fact that Chicago is going to be a mess. There's going to be violence. There's clearly, the businesses think there's a threat to them because they're all getting their businesses boarded up and closed down. We've already had an incident at an official DNC event last night where the woman ran up on the stage, as I showed you. And let me explain to you how the protests are going to happen inside the arena as well. You see, during the primary season, the Democrats created such an authoritarian atmosphere that no legitimate candidate really ran against Joe Biden in the primaries, right? They tried to stack the deck. There would be no debates. And even when RFK Jr. was trying to run, they set up these rules where if he ran in New Hampshire before South Carolina, then he wouldn't be able to keep his delegates. And they tried to strong arm him. And that's why he went independent instead of running as a Democrat. But some states allowed for a line item on the ballot to be uncommitted, okay, during the primary. So you could vote for Biden, you could vote for, what's her name, Williamson, the crystal guru woman, right?
Marianne.
What's your first name?
Marianne.
Marianne Williamson, thank you. Marianne Williamson, or I think there was one other guy running for the Democrat nomination. You could vote for them, or you could basically like voting none of the above. But because it's a primary, this actually triggers a party apparatus item where you vote, and this happened in Minnesota, this happened in Michigan, and a couple of other states, but certainly in Minnesota and Michigan, you voted for uncommitted. And people thought that was just a protest vote, which it was. It was a protest vote against Joe Biden, but it was specifically picked up in those two states, Michigan and Minnesota, by the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party, which is growing. It's growing big time. And they were the ones who pushed for uncommitted. And it triggered an apparatus in those states' Democrat parties when assigning delegates to the convention. If uncommitted got a certain amount of the vote, and I think in those two states it got something like 20% of the vote, they actually sent delegates to the convention starting today in Chicago that are uncommitted. There are delegates who are not committed to Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or anyone. They are literally uncommitted, and they were sent there as a protest vote against Israel and against the Biden policies in the Middle East to support Hamas. They will get through that security perimeter you saw. They will be in the room. They will be in the United Center participating in the Democratic National Convention as uncommitted delegates, as pro-Hamas delegates. It's going to be a shit show. There will be protests and demonstrations during the convention. I guarantee it. They've created a mess for themselves. But, Politico reminds you that there's no drama. All right, so back to John Fetterman here, who's decided that because his party has become so pro-terrorist and has thrown one of our most important allies in the world under the bus, he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So he will not be going to the Democrat National Convention, which I think is a big, as our friend Carol Markowitz at the New York Post says, it's a BFD. And at the same time this story broke, we've got this other story. Do you know the publication on this one, Kevin? Was this Axios?
I believe it's part of that.
Oh, is it part of the
Free Press?
Oh, Free Press, from the Free Press article. Well, I'll just read it for you. After his interview with the senator, Peter's phone rang. It was Fetterman's communications director. The communications director is like Karine Jean-Pierre, right? Communications director for a senator is the person who handles the media and is in charge of delivering statements on behalf of the candidate or elected official and basically communicating the congressman, the senator, or the president's message to the media. That's their job. All right. Their job is basically to speak on behalf of the candidate. So Carrie Adams, the communications director, who wanted to make clear that she doesn't agree with her boss on Israel and Gaza. So she gave a quote to the reporter contradicting her boss, the senator, and said, I want this to go on the record. Put this quote in your piece. Quote, I have a sense that his international views are a lot less nuanced than my generation, because when he was growing up, it was might makes right. And for my generation and younger, who of course are the ones protesting this, they have a much more nuanced view of the region, said the 30-something Adams of the 55-year-old senator. It was an astonishing moment. As Peter writes, I've been a reporter since the summer of 1998 when I covered Bill Clinton's trip to Martha's Vineyard for the Vineyard Gazette. This was the first time I'd ever encountered anyone on Capitol Hill or anywhere else, on the record, off the record, on background, whatever, criticizing the principle. Not just criticizing, actually wanting to go on the record to deliver a statement contradicting the man she works for. But this is how insane it is over there. This is how insane it is for the Democrats right now. And this is the week that we're about to have over in Chicago. One other noteworthy item I think is worth saying, and that is as Chicago prepares downtown for riots and potential looting and violence and mayhem, and businesses are being boarded up by using the original board up services, and there's grave security concerns there. Isn't it fair to reflect on the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee just 4 weeks ago? Now, I know Politico wants you to believe that the Democrats have no drama coming into Chicago, but boy, you talk about a well-run convention that was incredibly smooth, well-managed, no drama in any way whatsoever, no surprises. Everything went off like a dream. And there were no violent protests. There was no screaming in the streets. No businesses in downtown Milwaukee had to board up their windows for fear of looting or violence. Why is that? Think about it for a minute. I mean, it's not like the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic protesters who are, living and urinating in the streets of Chicago today have any fond thoughts about Republicans. It's not like they think Republicans are great, right? And if anything, Republicans are even in more support of Israel and more anti-Hamas than the Democrats are. So why are they in Chicago and why weren't they in Milwaukee? Well, if you think about it, it actually makes quite a bit of sense. You see, what's the point of going to Milwaukee? Republicans are never going to do anything for you. You know they're not. They're not going to knuckle under. They're not going to bend. They stand on principle. They have a moral certitude that Israel is on the right side of this fight. And Donald Trump has made no secret of the fact that if you want to be friends with America when he is president, you better make friends with Israel. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He pulled funding from Hamas in the West Bank. He pulled funding and cut off money to Iran to make sure that they couldn't fund terrorist activities. He destroyed ISIS. And by sending those clear, strong signals to the world, he actually ended up engineering peace agreements with Arab nations in Israel known as the Abraham Accords. So they can scream and protest and loot and burn things down all they want up in Milwaukee between the Republican National Convention. It ain't going to make a damn bit of difference. The reason they're in Chicago is because the Democrats actually care about these dirtbags. They actually could change policies. They actually have some leverage with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So they're using their threatening violent tactics, like good terrorists do, to try to modify the policy and to try to win the day. They're basically trying to blackmail the Democrats. You do what we say, and we're going to be loud and we're going to be noisy and we're going to be ruining Chicago on your big week. You do what we say, or else say goodbye to all those votes in Michigan. It's pretty despicable. And it's an eye-opener for you if you're still on the fence and wondering who you should vote for. I mean, I don't know about you, but I prefer not to be on the side of terrorists. Murdering, raping terrorists like Hamas and all the people who are flying those flags that you saw in Chicago. It's food for thought. And it really tells you where the Democrats are right now. And you know what's even more amazing about this? It could very well work. This week at the DNC, you may see Kamala Harris come out with a brand new foreign policy when it comes to Israel. And that would be, it'd be terrible for our country, but certainly clarifying for November. All right, that wraps things up. Although, do we have, there we go. Let's get to our very lovely and unsolicited super chats, but that doesn't mean we don't appreciate it. Tommy Brad, I appreciate it. Great show. You're very truthful with the world. Nice to hear. Like my Les Paul, truth sounds so pleasing to the ear. That's a beautiful, beautiful Les Paul, too. Has that got the wood grain going? Dang, that is gorgeous. That is gorgeous. Tommy, shoot us one of the videos of you playing that beauty right there. We'd love to see it. And what else have we got? Mav, thanks for the $5 super sticker. We appreciate it. Nice goatee, Mav. Your show is the best on the net, and I appreciate you and your team, even Kevin. Yeah, we're on the fence with Kevin.
Whoa.
You've been a real pain in the ass lately. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, come on. You loved the leprechaun video.
It was pretty good. Is that conservative Barbie, by the way? Is that who she is?
I don't know. I saw her video this morning, and I thought it was serious for about the first 15 seconds.
Oh, it totally hooked me in. Hooked me in. No, it was pretty well done. All right. Thank you, Mav, for the super chats. We appreciate it. And that's it. So 3 super chats today. We appreciate it. You bought us a couple of cups of coffee. It's going to go into the Town Hall Kitty, and we appreciate it. You know what? Just for that, we got something for you. Become a VIP member at Town Hall and use my name, Larry, as your code when you sign up for Town Hall, and you're going to get 50% off. It's a Town Hall VIP membership. Now's a good time to get that going into the election. On all the Town Hall sites, I'm talking about Town Hall, Hot Air, PJ Media, Red State, Twitchy, and Bearing Arms. Across all those sites, you'll get an ad-free experience. You get exclusive content behind the VIP paywall, and you'll be helping our journalism, the journalism of Katie Pavlich and Guy Benson and Kurt Schlichter and Matt Vespa and Mia Cathell. That's just at Town Hall. Then you go to Ed Morrissey and the team at Hot Air. You got Jen Van Laar at Red State. You got Stephen Cruiser and Stephen Green and the team over at PJ. And of course, Polita Bunny over there at Twitchy and the legendary Cam Edwards at Bearing Arms. You're supporting all of their journalism and keeping us independent from the big tech overlords. And we appreciate that too, because we need each other right now more than ever. All right. Thanks for watching. Great to be back on a Monday. And we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. My name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.